Welcome to Perceptions Today podcast, where we discuss consciousness in all forms. September 2022, episode 33. Stephanie Quick joins us in a roundtable about synchronicity, part 2 of 4. Stephanie Quick is a researcher who has a passion for synchronicities, erotic mysticism, and much more. Participants knew it was being recorded. Good, excellent. Myron and then Whitebeard.
Yeah, I had a really interesting experience with my granddaughter. I had a dream. Now, maybe you can help me with this since you're the expert here. I had a dream that my granddaughter and I were out playing in a kind of forest area, and it was covered with butterflies, and they were like thousands of them, and we were dancing around and laughing, and she was about, at the time, maybe in real life, maybe about 10 years old, something like that. And so anyway, the dream basically was that we were out in this forest, and we were having this great time, and all of a sudden there were butterflies everywhere, and there all kinds of them. And so I was sitting down about 2 days later, and I just had this huge intuition or feeling or whatever you want to call it to paint butterflies. Now, I don't paint butterflies. I mean, it's not something that I do. And so I did 5 or 6 paintings of butterflies in different positions and different colors and stuff. And so I sent my daughter the pictures of the butterflies. And I said, if you like some of these, I'll get you prints of these because, this isn't my thing, but they came out really nice. And then I told her about this dream that I had with Amelia, my granddaughter. And she said, well, that's really cool because Amelia loves butterflies. She just loves them. She's got paintings on her wall. She's got pictures of them on the walls. She talks about them all the time. She's very scientific oriented and bug oriented for some reason. And I said, well, I've got 5 paintings of them, and I normally don't do butterfly paintings. And she said, well, send them to me, immediately, and blah, 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 blah. So I got them printed, and then I sent her the prints. It was just an interesting synchronicity of a dream about something I couldn't possibly know because she's 3,000 miles away. So I've probably seen her 4 times in my life. So I don't know much about what she likes and what she doesn't like, unfortunately. And yet in the dream, there are all the butterflies. And then I do something that I never do, which is paint butterflies and then paint 5 pictures of them. And they take about 30 hours each. And then I call my daughter, and she tells me that my granddaughter is in love with butterflies. So there's the synchronicity that I thought that was really interesting. And
it seems to me that this is like just a classic case of how grandchildren wrap their grandparents around their little finger, one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you don't know them. I really didn't know her. Yeah. I only met her 3 or 4 times in my whole life.
Well, it's the thing is, I was actually having a similar discussion with someone not too long ago about, well, of course, the butterfly is the symbol of Psyche, which is Greek for the soul, and how.
Yeah, well, it's a transformative, metaphysical beings.
Yes, and the soul. There's a lot of thought in various traditions that at night when we dream, the soul finds its home, right? And so many people have the experience of dreaming and dreaming together with people that they care about. Or there's some instances I've heard of people that just, like they had a relationship before and they're not super close now, but they will still have times when they end up in the dreaming together. And they can both verify it with each other afterwards, like the morning afterwards. And there's also a long tradition of people dreaming. And when you dream at night as you're sleeping, you go to like the astral temple or school, and you are with your fellow students and receiving teachings from other people or beings on a spiritual level. So I think that you and your granddaughter have this connection, and so she managed to communicate to you her deep interest in butterflies.
Interestingly enough, I had a prophetic dream about insects too, and I have a witness about this one. So this one is right on the money. I had a dream. It's a simple dream. We were walking down a road, and people were running towards us, and they were saying, "Don't go down that road, because if you go down that road, you're going to run into thousands of bees. They're everywhere. There are bees all over the place." And so Leslie and I said, "No, we're going to go down the road anyway." So we go down the road, and instead of bees, there's millions of ladybugs all over the
Wow.
tree. And so at breakfast, I told her that dream. And 1 hour later, we're walking down a path, and that exact thing happened. Exactly the way it happened in the dream. Same words, same everything. No, don't go down there. There's thousands of bees down there, and they were all ladybugs. So it's really the prophetic part of it is fascinating, but
Yeah.
and the synchronicity part of it is also fascinating.
Yeah.
And, this has sure gotten to be a buggy conversation, I must tell
Yes.
you.
Which is good, because it's not technical bugs, which normally happen to us and plague us all the time. So that's quite good.
Yeah, that's right. It's not a technical bug. Well, anyway, I just wanted to tell you that dream, because that dream, I mean, that's a couple of, I have a lot of those kinds of prophetic dreams, and I have witnesses like telling her the story before it actually happened.
No, that's
So it isn't just an anecdote, but
yeah.
it was a strange morning, to say the least.
Yeah. No, that's just great. I love it.
Okay, that's my.
Excellent. I don't think, Stephanie, you've had the opportunity to talk to Whitebeard, who also goes by Greybeard and also many other names, but he's a large part of the community and brings a lot to the table with, like, many other people in the room.
Oh, awesome.
Hi, Stephanie. I got to get going real soon, but I had a quick question going all the way back to the beginning. I think I missed a part, but I was curious about the autoimmune disorder in the beginning. And what did you make a statement on what caused that?
No, it basically I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis when I was around 20. I became very ill when I was 15.
Could you say that slowly, please? Because
Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It's an
gotcha. Thank you.
disease against the thyroid gland. And I had been ill before. I had over 30 years with the pulmonologist who was treating me, and his best guess was over all this that I had some autoimmune disease affecting my airways that hadn't been discovered yet. In the last couple years ago, I ended up developing lupus after a bout with probably influenza A in December of 2019. And that has been treated. But in the process of getting treatment for the lupus, I've been seeing a rheumatologist, and she ran a few other tests, and it turns out that I do have a couple of genetic defects around how your airways handle, for example, smoke, and some other stuff. So I'm kind of wondering if, as we go through and more autoimmune diseases and genetic things are discovered, if they'll find out more that I had something that just hasn't been identified yet. I mean, lots of times I would get the diagnosis that they would put for the insurance company would be like asthma, but even 20 years ago they knew that asthma was a kind of a catch-all term for a number of different problems with breathing, but you end up treating it, a lot of it, in the same ways, with the same medicines and stuff, and managing it these similar ways. So it kind of falls under that heading. But yeah, so that's kind of the story on that. But yeah, I know that it seems like there are a lot of people who have psychic tendencies or mediumistic experiences, which I've had a lot of encounters with dead people or animals that have autoimmune diseases. So.
Yeah,
There's
that
a
was
lot.
exactly my question. I'm sorry, Paul. You can say that was exactly my reasoning. You have to be the third or fourth person that I've probably talked to within certain communities that have experiences that also have some sort of autoimmune disorder as well, and I find that really interesting.
I was just going to
Because
throw into. Sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I was going to throw into that. There's a lot of fibromyalgia people, and because obviously that's an immune problem as well, on the very surface of it all. And there's a lot in the community have all got kind of medical issues that have caused problems, which has put them in touch with the kind of, obviously we use the wrong kind of terminology, but the psychic kind of informational pickup that not other people have, and they're sensitive to things.
Yeah.
Continue, Whitebeard.
Oh, like I said, a weird correlation is the different energies within, what I see as the electromagnetic spectrum. Different frequencies can cause different effects. So I'm curious of the connection. If you connected your autoimmune to your experiences, as some people do, because some people feel it's an effect of that energy, or a side effect possibly of that energy, or that gift, if you want to call it, whatever terminology we want to use.
I am not sure. If you're interested in this, there is I think it's the Windbridge Foundation and the Forever Family Foundation. It's Julie, I've forgotten her name, Mark Bacuzzi as well. And they are doing a lot of work with mediumship, especially. And they're also looking into and have resources, I believe, about the connection between people with autoimmune disorders and mediumship. I don't know. For me, a lot of what I feel has made the difference as far as my own particular physical problems and developing more facility with the subtle energies, or the night side of nature, as Catherine Crowe called it, and stuff. I've had to spend a lot of time by myself. I've had to spend, I've spent literally years bedridden, more and more years housebound. And I had conditions like with the breathing problems. You really have to learn how to moderate your emotions, because if you laugh too much, if you cry too much, if you speak too much, if you just breathe normally, you can cause aggravation of your problems. So, and a lot of that has a lot of overlap with like traditional and meditational disciplines, or training programs to develop mediumship, that type of stuff. So I'm not sure about that. I do know that I have super dry skin, and I'm like one of those people that is like constantly getting shocks and leaking, and I can't use like transdermal patches for medicine. They just fall off. The last time I went to the emergency room and they wanted to do an EEG, and the lady could barely get those patches to stick on me. So
that sounds like an interesting case. The other thing I was going to say for Whitebeard and for other people, Whitebeard, you might not have heard that Stephanie went through a lot of pain as well due to her condition. And again, the spinal column and obviously the brain are, when they're misfiring pain information, when it's not a specific damage to site, it's obviously electrical. And again, that could be an interesting way for us to look into, for seeing how many other people, and again, you've got the people that have had either heart attacks and other bits that cause problems with electrical watches, other kind of devices like Soraya from Where Did the Road Go? He can muck up computers even though he fixes them because of his electrical output as well, and Kundalini energy. So these are all kind of interesting areas.
That's the thing that I always kind of a joke about it, but like Lloyd Auerbach is on I think he's on the board of the Forever Family Foundation, and he's a parapsychologist and also works as a mentalist and does a little bit of magic. And so he'll hold spoon bending parties where you teach people how to bend spoons. And I'm always getting aggravated because I'm like, look, I'm also one of those people that blows up computers, and I can't wear a watch. One time I'd been actually sitting with Leslie Temple Thurston and a bunch of people all weekend, and I walked into my mom's house and her watch stopped, and she's like, Stephanie, why are you doing this? But I'm always like, why can't you teach us how to like not do that? Instead, we don't need to break more things. We need to be able to not break things.
Oh, just to add on to that, which will be on the spoon bending bit, Skeptico's latest podcast has got Dean Radin on it. And he's talking about his, yes, they can do obviously the spoon bending, but when it was put to them as scientists for the noetic Institute, if I make sure that's the correct one, they won't actually try the experiment of spoon bending on a plane because they don't know what the outcome could be. And, you know, it could be severe consequences that if everyone's concentrating on this, you might have metal fatigue within the plane. And it was an interesting one to hear. So I was listening to that this morning.
No, I think, I think that that's a good point. And, I'm thinking, I don't know if we're kind of wrapping up here, but I wanted to emphasize, I was actually speaking with Matt and I when we did that show on humor. Lloyd Auerbach was very kind and spent an hour or so talking to us beforehand. He had a lot of funny stories, but we were talking about so much of this goes along with strong emotion. And I think it's important to be grounded, but also to keep a sense of humor, because if you're joking around and, you keep a light heart to it, you try and be nice to people, keep a more wholesome attitude, then I think that kind of emotional tone carries over into the manifestations that happen around you, and you're going to be more likely to have funny or maybe kind of naughty synchronicities that don't. I mean, I have because a lot of my problems happen around my sacroiliac joint, which is basically your butt, right? So I have a lot of synchronicities around underwear, which is embarrassing and goofy and stuff. But if you're going to have an emotion around something, embarrassing and goofy is a lot better than being scared and anxious and in fear for your life because a plane might be crashing, right? So it's just something to bear in mind. Don't
start thinking about spoons when you're on there. Make sure it's all plastic cutlery.
Exactly. But yeah, if you keep a wholesome attitude and try and look on the lighter side of life, then I think that it tends to help, whatever weirdness you manifest that happens around you to be more lighthearted and fun and maybe, beneficial. Like that one I had with Alex, even though it was around him smashing his fingers, he ended up healing nicely. And, at the heart of it is like, you care about your friends, which isn't bad.
That's always a good thing to be, because wasn't the same bottle image almost similar to kind of the witch's hand where they turn it into a candle as well?
Yeah, that like the hand of glory, yeah.
So where's the best places for people to get in contact with you directly? Because I know that you are getting close to wanting to wrap up. Is that correct or not?
Yeah. Probably on Twitter, you can DM me, or if you go to my blog, there's a contact page. You can send me email. Those are probably the two easiest ways.
And again, you're very approachable.
Yeah, I love to hear people's weird stories. Keep them coming.
And also, if you type in Stephanie Quick's name into search engines and podcasts, you'll find her on 6 Degrees of John Keel, and you've also been on multiple other ones, again, like Project Archivist and Taylor Bell. Have you been on Taylor Bell's yet? I know you've been with Taylor Bell talking to him.
Yes, I've been on his Green Lion podcast a couple times.
Because it was the crossover, wasn't it, with obviously Rogan swapping both kind of bits on the empath bit, which is fantastic to learn about the pull and push of people. Because we discussed, after hearing that, about the empath section, we were realizing there's quite a few within our community who are that way but didn't realize they were that way. Like they're standing in a room at a party and suddenly people come over and just emotionally unload for no reason, that they don't even know them. So that was a great one to kind of have as a conversation.
Yeah. And actually, if you go on my onto my blog, I have set up a page. It's like, I think it's podcast and video appearances. So if you want, you can go there. There should be links to all those various. You can hear me nattering on even more.
And it is worthwhile listening to her nattering on, especially when she gets onto Bigfoot on the 6 Degrees of John Keel and some of the artwork that was sent to her.
Oh my gosh. It was actually, we recorded another show on Bigfoot and gender on 6 Degrees of John Keel. That's an excellent podcast, by the way. Just to go, and they have a bunch of different people, a lot of experiencers talking about their various things that have happened to them too. But yeah, we have another one in the can. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but everyone should subscribe. Actually, they just released today a new podcast on 6 Degrees of John Keel, talking about John Keel's idea that belief is the enemy. So that I haven't listened to it yet, but that should be lots of fun too. Very thought-provoking. So.
And I like the fact that a lot of people have got a nice, good, light attitude to the things, and they're jokey as well, and they're not too serious with the way that the conversations go.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's interesting, too, when you mentioned that the Bigfoot show that we did was on people that have had erotic encounters with Bigfoot. And so I had received various artwork that people had created about this idea in my DMs. And apropos of our conversation here today, recently I've been receiving a lot of erotic manted artwork.
I'm glad this is just all audio, so you're not holding things up to show the audience.
There was one which cracked me up, and it was kind of it was actually more of a romantic image. It's like inside a big cathedral, and there's an audience of praying mantises in robes, and they're all watching these two women in kind of 80s bouffant hairdos, makeup, and really big-shouldered white wedding dresses, being married to each other by a mantis. He's dressed up like a bishop or something.
One of the best ones that I heard of Project Archivist was when they were talking about the amount of, I think it's books that have been put online to Amazon, which are erotic Bigfoot novels and things, and you just wouldn't even think that would be something that would have such a big audience.
Yes, well, as it turns out, I guess it could be a big moneymaker, so.
Yeah, sorry, I got to stop myself laughing at this end. Sorry. Stops all conversation when you have all the furry images and you're dressed up in strange outfits.
Paul's getting all distracted here thinking about it.
I just don't want to start laughing all over the place. That's the main problem.
Oh, no. But anyway, yeah, so 6 Degrees of John Keel is great, and Project Archivist. And Taylor's is the Green Lion podcast, if people want some new things to listen to. So, yeah, anyway.
Now, I know that obviously you are part of the community and you were one of the founding members that kicked this off, which is great. I'm sure you'd like to come back and find out more about any synchronicities that happened in a few months or whatever, wouldn't you? Or even come back to something else that's going on.
Oh, yeah, I'm up for it. I've just, yeah, it's been a very hectic few months, but things are calming down now. So, no, I'd love to do that.
And
conversation and everyone's participation today is really nice.
Yeah, it's just great. All the people that come and join and come and put all the information on the table, as I keep saying, it's just fantastic. We just learn so much, and it's much appreciated from people taking time out of their days. And I think I mentioned to you that we got, obviously, Anthony Peake in April, and also Laird Scranton is coming back as well. So that's going to be on Zoom, one of them. So that would be good conversations that we've been having.
Yay. No, it sounds great.
And more people keep coming in by the day, and synchronistically and organically keep coming up and going, oh, I got this as a topic. And I'm going, oh, that sounds good. And yeah, it's superb the way it's evolving.
No, it's been a very exciting to see. Definitely.
Well, you haven't seen all the wheels on the bus fall off when we heard all the technical issues at the very early stages of Twisted Space when rooms crashed and we were running from one room to the next, and it looked like we're in a corridor in a school where everyone will get out of one room and have to follow the teacher running into the next one, and that crashed, and we have to keep on sending out more links and keep on going down and down. It's just hilarious.
It's a little bit of that, but I think that Chupacabra has identified the cure to that, which is you just need to be talking about bugs instead of...
Definitely. That's the way. So thank you very much for your time, etc. We're going to continue on if people want to.
Okay, I'm going to go take my leave, but just thank you so much to everyone. And contact me. Let me know if you have any weird knock-on synchronicities. And have a great day.
Again, thank you very much. And I'm sure some people will be either throwing icons or saying things in a minute before you go. Maybe. I don't know. I tend to do that, and everyone's running backwards and forwards. So, nice to see you, Jeffrey, down there. I was only speaking about you today, which was good, because you made it into an episode on Internal Light, episode 2, which will be coming out soon. I just put up a new one. Do people want to take the conversation further on synchronicities and discuss? You can come off mute and say things, or you can throw up icons. One of the two, I don't mind, because I know there's so much to unpack from what we have been discussing, whether it be books, films, events in lives, or just what you think synchronicities are. Has my audio gone? No, Fred, good.
Hey, So actually, first of all, I don't even know like what to call you. Can you tell me your name?
You can call me Paul.
Paul? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I just wanted to thank you again for this opportunity to have these like safe spaces. Like you said, a lot of people are coming up with the same stuff, and it feels like magic, honestly. But the thing that I wanted to touch on was, I think Chupacabra was the one that mentioned it the most. Like you can get sucked into these like patterns or synchronicities or all of these things, and it's a pretty bad rabbit hole, and you have to have your anchor. But what I've been noticing personally, how I mentioned, I've been trying to compile my own data, is like, I don't know if you guys are religious, but my spiritual journey has evolved from, I guess, devolved, because I grew up Catholic and then Christian, and then I kind of went agnostic and then Hermetic, and then at this point, I would say I have a very good spiritual relationship with the source, and whatever you want to call it, the omnipotent force within all of us that connects us, And I just started to notice that, like, the less that I tried, or the less that I tried to assert my will over the universe, the more it started to work. Like, things would click into place. Like, for example, I mean, obviously, employment is very important, but for me, I just started praying for the right opportunity to fall into my lap, and I knew I was doing the work to have that come to me, and it just kept happening. And right now, if I get resistance from the universe, like in terms of like someone doesn't return my phone call, or like things aren't going the way that I planned, like I kind of just started letting go more, and the opportunities that are supposed to be there for me are waiting for me to happen, and it's just not the right time or the right place. And I think that's the biggest synchronicity for me personally in this journey, has been just, it's too obvious to neglect,
Definitely. I can say that with the people's viewpoints and beliefs, obviously a lot of people have got different things. And again, we say terminology, just can't express how everything works. And as long as you're trying to be good to everyone, that is the main kind of criteria, and not trying to hurt people. And when it comes down to what you were saying of intention of what should be, that is so true. A lot of us have found that and have discussed it. For example, I was going to say to you that some people who have had experiences, whether it be with Kundalini energy, and wanted to tell people years ago, they were kind of finding out that they couldn't tell people and it wasn't being receptive. But roll on kind of 5 years and their experiences and technology now changing like this, where they can meet in different forums or Clubhouse or other places, people are now starting to accept it and discuss it and not feel that they are going to be victimized for expressing something. And it's kind of the right time, rather than you had to wait for those people who might not have experienced it 5 years ago, but only experienced it a year ago, are now kind of moved by universe, whatever force, and put into this room. Like, for example, the time you found us yesterday by synchronicity, in that kind of way that you wouldn't have been able to do that 20 years ago due to the fact we weren't using the internet in that kind of way. And you'd actually have to travel to a place and actually bump into one of us, or these kind of things, if that makes sense to you, Fred.
Yeah, sorry, I was moving around. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I don't know, I don't want to say I've been fighting it, but I think at this point, like, I'm finally accepting that there is a role to play in terms of like the level of connection, or the level of like understanding, because you said it perfect. Like 5 years ago, like 2 years ago, like it wasn't there. I mean, it was there, but you had to find it, But this is such a, I don't want to say like condensed, but it's just so pinpointed at this point. Like every time I jump into one of these, it's the right fit, and it kind of goes into what I don't want to say like my theory, but like my journey right now is me understanding that like my human experience is, I equate it to the Goldilocks effect. Like all the experience in my life, like all the people in my life, like they're all so perfectly placed for me to learn, for me to grow, like, and it's just not a lot of people have a network like I do, and I take it for granted sometimes. And I'm starting to really like give thanks for that I have all these different people, like, to just like ask questions, like learning about the medical field, learning about like mental health, learning about the world, learning about like Kundalini, like you're talking about. Like there's just so many people out there as a as a wealth of knowledge, and it's so wonderful to be able to extrapolate like those things and then just jump off. It's a blessing.
Oh, most definitely. I'm going to ask you all, and also yourself, Fred, have you ever read the book The Dice Man?
No, I have not.
Okay, so The Dice Man's a work of fiction, and it's about a psychiatrist who decides that because he kept on making decisions and it was predictable, he thought he would go the opposite direction and have two dice in his hand, and if he asked a question, he would have roll, say, odds for yes and evens for no, and that's how he started to live his life. And it's a book by George Cockcroft, and it's a fascinating book because obviously being a psychiatrist and being fictional, it can lead to good and bad things because he was just doing it all by chance.
Funny about that is I have a gambling background and it ruined my life, but I've taken the good and the bad from it, But one of the big things that I do is I leave things to chance, and I flip a coin if I'm like conflicted or divided. And in my mind, that's just gravity, making this for me.
Definitely. I see that Myron will be able to chime in on this.
Yeah, it is kind of different than it was when I was beginning my process alone. There was no one to talk to. There was, in fact, you couldn't even talk to the psychological community unless you got some Jungian. The Jungian Society, the first time that I began expressing what happened, what kind of visions I had, was to a Jungian analyst, and that would be like 1979, something like that. And there was the church, and then the church, of course, would judge exactly opposite of what I was experiencing. And then there were no people to talk to, and you couldn't come out. If you're in the business world, you could not come out with this kind of stuff. You would be fired so fast. In the sense that, like in my case, I was an executive, so they would find ways to get rid of me, even though I had a contract with, if they knew about all the stuff that I was doing. And it's remarkable the transition in 50 short years. I mean, that's a long time, but it's not a long time really. But in 50 years, we've gone from, in my case, me being totally isolated, not talking to anyone about this except a few analysts, but only a couple. That's it. The rest of them were blowing it off with all kinds of medical reasons. And but now, since things like Contact in the Desert that I was supposed to do a couple of years ago with Anthony, and we were going to talk to all these people about our experiences and then interact with them, and they were going to ask questions. I mean, that was unheard of when I was 30 years old. That was just unheard of. That didn't happen. And so you only had a few places to go. You could go to the church. If you went to the psychological community, they would give you a diagnosis pretty quick, and it would be mostly bullshit. I mean, one thing I've learned that by my own
language,
stuff,
Myron, language.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right. I forgot this recorded. I thought it was over. Anyway, it wasn't accurate. Okay, it was just theory of behavior that didn't quite fit. And so I went to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. So I didn't have anybody else to go to. And then you get into these little occult groups. Back in the 70s and 80s, there were these like witches groups and warlock groups and UFO groups, and there were all kinds of little groups, but there wasn't a lot of really solid information being transmitted by any of them. It was all kind of stories and anecdotes, but they weren't really believable, and even if they were believable, I didn't believe them. So and of course, there were always books, so I read every book I could get my hands on that had to do with metaphysics and with religion and with spirituality and every religion in the world, and including pagan religions, which are the most interesting and closest to the unconscious, I think, because I think the other ones are too structured to be close to the unconscious, whereas the more primitive ones are much more connected to the unconscious directly. And anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm kind of complimenting the fact that all this is available now on these podcasts and we were talking about synchronicities today. I mean, when I think of the people that I have met on this road, it's like every time I needed to meet somebody, I met them. For whatever the next step was, I always met them somehow.
Oh, quick example for you, Myron. When we were talking Led Scranton and you were to find out about a part of your epilepsy light section called the messenger, and he was able to tell you about that, and you hadn't found that out until discussing that with him on March the 10th, wasn't it?
Yeah. So,
and that was like 50 plus years on from the original point of you having the experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
give or
right.
take.
That's right. I don't, I have my theories about, why I get connected to the people that I get, and most of it has to do with Charon, and I don't want to talk about that too much, but the fact is that every time I need another person or place or thing to get to go to the next step, it just happened because I guess it's because I stay out of the way of it and I don't block it, even if it's sort of irrational, or sometimes I don't always connect to it. I still listen. And when podcasts began, which is not very long ago, you would know more about that than I would, but I didn't start listening to podcasts until the last few years. I just didn't. I mean, I worked with Oliver Sacks and other kinds of people, but not because of a podcast. But the fact is that there's so much information now that's available. Like every time you have a guest, you say, okay, you can reach them here and you can see this and you can reach them there and you can reach them. And like she was saying, she has her podcasts and she has this and she has that, her blogs and all of that. And like when I met Anthony, there's a good example. I mean, I never knew him from Adam or Anthony. And I met him because on Facebook, I had posted something about the white rabbit that I was talking about earlier. And then he went on my website and read the event of my excursion into the psychopomps and the white rabbits and the fairies and all that stuff. And then we got together and he called me and we started talking. And so there's a kind of So there was a person that I needed to meet, and he needed to meet me because he wanted to use a lot of my information in his books, and he's very bright and he has a lot of good theories and stuff, and I think I got you from Facebook or from him. I'm not sure.
What happened was I was listening to you back probably about 5 or 6 years ago when you did your very first interview with Anthony, then obviously heard through podcasts. Then when Anthony back in October of last year wanted to do a live event with us to actually do a Q&A and do 4 hours of talking to people in a round table manner like we do now, I was trying to send you the links because Anthony asked me to do that. We were communicating backwards and forwards through Facebook Messenger. And then literally just before Christmas, we actually had the first opportunity. Well, I actually talked to you when you did your premiere for the epilepsy video of
right.
there. But then we made a real kind of connection. And then December, we actually talked for the first time, as in one-to-one. And then we've kind of escalated from there. So it's quite phenomenal.
It's just really interesting when I forgot who said that if you're available, the people that you need will come into your life. Now they may not be there permanently, but they will come into your life, and when you need them, whatever you need from them, you will get, and then you will move on. It was either Jung or somebody was talking about that. Maybe it was even Adler, another analyst guy that was a friend of Jung's. But anyway, the point is that I guess this is a roundabout compliment to technology and to the very fact that all of this stuff can be freely expressed. Now, I don't know if I was still in business, if I would be saying some of the things that I have said even on your cast, but certainly not on Anthony's. I mean, I made some confessions on the 2 hour and 45 minute one that could not get out when I was an executive. That absolutely could not get out. And the only way it got out is when I had my first giant show at Grand Central Arts Center of 70 pieces, and then it got into the newspapers, and then it got out, and then that was the beginning of my into the career that I had, and then I moved on from that career to the art career. But the fact is that these things just seem to, and they just seem to flow. You go from this person to that person. Some of them are deceased. Like Oliver Sacks is gone now, and so I can't work with him anymore. One of my other associates that founded my art career, he's dead, so he's gone. And then another friend of mine who was really big in my process, he's dead, so he's gone. And but then there are new people like you, and then like Anthony and some others. It's a fascinating journey if you open yourself up. They just seem to come. Now, I assume that happens to everybody who opens themselves up. I think the problem is that most people don't. They're very closed up, and they're very distracted by life and money and bills and kids and school and football and whatever. And these subjects seem sort of far away and irrelevant. But for those of us who are in it, and we're in it up to our necks, and there's no getting out of it once you get in it. And there's no established church to go to, you know what I mean? A structure to go to. I mean, there are lots of places, but some of them are pretty far away, and and they have their own agenda and all that kind of stuff. So an open forum where you can talk about different aspects of consciousness and experiences and all that kind of stuff, and be different. I mean, everybody on this program is pretty much different, and that's kind of cool. It's unlike when with Anthony, he's interviewing a person like me. He interviews me, and that's it. There's no other person there. Here we've got 8 or 9 or 10 or 15 or 16 or whatever amount of people, and that's a lot of input from a lot of different directions. And I think that's very productive. And this isn't just a commercial. This is actually something at my age that was really important, because I'm getting very old now, and I can't even drive anymore. So these kinds of discussion groups, I mean, just like today in Synchronicity, I mean, sure, I know about synchronicity. I knew about Jung years ago and read everything he ever wrote about it. But the fact is that it was fun to hear all of these little experiences that people had, and how they sort of correlated with each other. And you just can't find that. That's really hard to find. And so I just wanted to add that to the discussion today. It's I think that in itself is a kind of big synchronicity, that all of these groups are popping up all over the place. Now, of course, some of them are going to be eliminated because they're not really that interesting, and the others that are more interesting will rise to the forefront. And I hope that they can stay, honest and unpolitical. And I don't mean politics. I mean other kinds of politics, like prejudiced on certain subjects, like UFOs or Bigfoot. Or I mean, I never heard anybody say that they had sex with Bigfoot. That's new to me. I mean, I never heard that in my life. So that I learned that.
Sometimes you just get educated here for the wrong reasons.
Yes. And I didn't even want to picture it. I mean, that
don't. If you've got a good imagination, close it down now. Get yourself some mental floss between the ears, pull backwards and forwards, and just clean that image right out. Don't even Google it. Okay, don't search for it either.
So that's my statement. Anyway, it's just so refreshing to be able to sit in my room, since I can't really go very many places, and go out into the world and discuss all of these issues that I've lived with all of my life. And even if people don't connect with me or connect with what I say or whatever, so what? I mean, the fact that I get to say it is worth its weight in gold. I mean, it's because I mean, alchemy is technically a science of being alone. The alchemist does his work according to Jung, alone, and then he's looking for the philosopher's stone, which he would consider, kind of cosmic consciousness kind of thing. And it wouldn't be an actual stone; it would be, enlightenment or consciousness erasing or whatever. But when you do that by yourself, you can get really inflated about it, and you can also get isolated and misunderstood in all kinds of ways. And I mean, I'm kind of lucky that I'm an artist, so I get a buy on how kooky I can get. I mean, my stuff can be really strange, and it is, and when it's seen, I get a buy just because it's creative, and they just go, "Oh yeah, well, he's an artist, so no wonder he's crazy," And but if I was just Joe Blow out there and I had these experiences and I didn't record them and I didn't write music and I didn't write books, I just had these experiences. It would be like standing on the street corner and saying that, and then everybody.
Can I just pause you there, Myron? Because Krista's going to have to run in a minute, but I just want to grab in her question and find out what she has to add to this, and then I can get back to you after we've spoken to Shadowfox. Krista?
Sure. Yeah, sorry, I've got just a little bit of time, and glad to catch a little bit of Stephanie's chat. I think that maybe it was Fred that had brought up. You said a phrase of getting out of the way.
It was Fred, yeah.
Yeah, and that really struck me because Myra and I remember the one of the Zooms that we did. I'm younger than you. You're my parents' age, and I really commended you and people of your age for having the bravery to talk about esoteric things and things that maybe were out of kind of the quote unquote normal world. But having the bravery to have these discussions now, it doesn't seem like it's that brave, because there's plenty of people my age and younger that, we talk about these things all the time. So it's not foreign for us. And it was because of people ahead of us that had the bravery to come out and be unafraid about these conversations. But I wanted to just kind of comment on Fred's comment about getting out of the way, because that really, to me, that's the key. It's we're all a part of this, weaving of intuition and tuning in and connecting and finding synchronicities and symbolism. I mean, as humans, we look for patterns, and we're looking for patterns to give us comfort of why we're here, for all the different reasons and all the different roles that we're playing while we're here. And I think Gabe's on this call. So Gabe and I both do a lot of dream work, and with dreams, it's all symbols, and you want to kind of decipher what's just an image that you picked up during the day versus what's a symbol that's trying to come through, and to glean meaning out of it. That you're gleaning meaning because you want to pull meaning from that dream world into the real world. But one thing that I've done recently is, I practice lucid dreaming as a form of meditation at night, but I also do meditations in the day. And what I've found is having to do meditation journals, because when you stop and you just tune in and you get out of the way and you just act as a receptacle of whatever is flowing through, that you're just catching all sorts of synchronicities, all sorts of connections that you wouldn't have maybe otherwise noticed, because you're getting out of the way, you're slowing down. And I don't know that Graybeard is on here. Yeah, I don't see him, but he talks a lot about
he's moved out.
Yeah, he talks a lot about intuition, and I feel like a lot of this space, like the literal Twitter space that Paula, that you hold, it is kind of, it's like a bowl that we all hold different pieces of kind of the same puzzle. and we're all coming to it from our own perspectives, but we're all kind of getting to this point of wanting to connect and find meaning and connect to each other. And you know, I'm always so appreciative of it, even if I don't have a experience like with head trauma or you know, some of the other things. Like, you know, Myron, your story is just crazy and I love hearing it, but it is wild. I've never met anybody that has had the experience that you have, you know, so I appreciate coming to it just to hear your thoughts. But I just, sorry for the word salad. I wanted to get that out before I had to go, that getting out of the way and just being either that antenna tuning in or being the observer and looking for symbolism and finding the pattern. Like, I feel like we're all doing it just in our own way with the language that we have and the experience that we have and our own proclivity and passion, you know, for like mine is with astrology, because I feel like that is, you know, when the planets align, when the planets have these patterns of orbit going around things, to me, that's just kind of these ways of connecting that maybe we don't have the language and the understanding with, but it is just this reminder that we are all connected in these kind of invisible threads, and each of us kind of can shed light on what one thread of this weaving that we all connect together. Anyway, sorry, that was a lot of words, but thanks again, Paul. I can stay on for a few more minutes. I just wanted to jump in before I had to go.
You always come in with great words, and as I say, you're always a superb part of the community to bring other influences. And I think the fact that you come in and give compliments and do it in a hit and run style and going to be out the door again, even when you're really busy with obviously family members and people in the area. I just can't say enough for that. I mean, normally I'd just ignore everyone and not even do it, but I have to turn up and do these things. So I'm happy about that one.
Yeah, so, I have like a conveyor belt of family coming in, some left today, and then I have more tomorrow. And then it's fun. I'm glad to be able to connect with family again, but it's a lot of work and a lot of laundry. So that's kind of my world right now.
So if you send me your schedule, then I'll fit the right different events and talks that we have to you.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, be thankful you have a family, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah, I am. Even they drive me nuts, but I'm very, very thankful to have them to drive me nuts. Yeah.
I was so isolated from my own that since they thought I was demon possessed, but so I never really had a family, actually. I was always in exile.
We're kind of your new family. You know that, right?
Yeah. Well, that's, it's true. That's what I think that was the point I was trying to make, that there's an old expression, we read to know we're not alone. And now you can translate that into, we do these kinds of things to know that we're not alone. These podcasts and programs and all the camaraderie of it, the sympathy of it, at least someone is listening without judging too much. And if they are judging, they're not telling me that they're doing that. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to, when you've spent all your life completely isolated from the rest of the world and didn't dare tell anybody anything. It's to come out is like the egg's open and it's a cosmic egg and I'm coming out. It started when my art career hit, which was like 20 years ago. But I still couldn't talk about all of these events except in certain contexts. Like, for instance, if I was talking at an epilepsy group, because I was on the board of the Epilepsy Foundation 15 years, and I would talk to 400 people, mostly parents of children who have epilepsy, and I would tell them some of my experiences, and then they would say, well, they would come to me later and they would say, well, yeah, my son says that he has that. And so there was a synchronicity there between what was happening with their children and what I was saying. I used to call it the black cat syndrome. Everybody thinks a black cat is evil because of all of the mystery around the years of painting black cats as something awful and terrible. In fact, in some cultures, they're actually destroyed. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and they just have black, color. But so it was kind of that way with being an epileptic, number one. So I had to keep that completely quiet. And then and have this mystical stuff going, number two, that really had to stay quiet. And then I found out that there were hundreds and hundreds of people who had the same problem. But I didn't know that until I got onto the foundation and started working there on the board and talking to parents, all over the country about what their children are going through and how they're dealing with their own hallucinations and their own their own virtual realities, if you want to look at it that way. And then, of course, the medical people, all they want to do is knock it down. It's just as fast as they can with drugs. And sometimes drugs just don't work. I mean, I'm considered intractable, which means I'm not curable. The drugs won't work. So they can't stop what happens to me as far as my visions and hallucinations and all that stuff. They can't stop it. They don't know what it is, but they can't stop it. And so I guess what I'm saying is that since technology has made this forum, not just this podcast, but all podcasts of all kinds. So there's some of it's really positive, some of it's really negative, some of it isn't even worth listening to. But it's there, and you don't feel like you're the only person in the whole world that has these things, and you're just out of your mind. You're just crazy. And it's kind of nice to know if I am crazy, well, then there are other people who are crazy too, and maybe all of us crazy people should get together, kind of thing.
I think we're all in the same room at the moment.
Anyway, that's. I just wanted to compliment the whole thing. It's done wonders for me. Starting back with Anthony, he was the first one that put me on. Well, I was on radio and stuff before that, but that's not like podcasts. That's like local radio stations here in LA and stuff. I've been on programs like that, and a lot of epilepsy stuff. So that predates all of this, but to do those podcasts with Anthony, that was the first time that I'd really come out and just laid it out on the air, and then it was just one after another. It was just really an amazing experience, and people were remarkably receptive. I mean, yeah, there are people who make fun of me and things like that. Well, like that guy did yesterday. I don't know who that was, but
I think, Myron, at the moment we're having a bit of audio issues for people who are actually up as speakers. When you're talking, the audio is coming in and out for two of us. I want to check with somebody who's a listener if they pick up one of the invitation I gave them, just to check, because I was told yesterday by somebody who was a listener, Infinity Visuals, that when we, as people who had the mic option, were hearing bad audio, the people who are stuck as listeners who didn't have the audio, they were actually hearing everyone fine. So I'm just going to try and figure that one out. Shadow Fox, were you hearing the audio kind of pop in and out?
Not as much as sometimes. I mean, Myron was going pretty good on my side.
Okay.
But I would like to let you know that Lou Hawks is here, and he's been waiting to say hello to you.
Oh, okay. We'll quickly bring him in. That'd be great. Myron, the confirmation. No, I mean, all the information is great there. And again, we can always dive into lots more of it. The fact that all these forums turn up and we can actually do this as a round table is fantastic. So bring on the man of the hour.
Okay, yeah. Well, before I do, I just have to give you a warning, because he's going to talk, but I don't know what he's going to say, and now I'm scared.
Does he have a theme tune yet?
Yeah.
Just like Rocky coming in.
Here he is.
Good evening, Paul. It's good to speak with you again.
Good evening, Lee.
And those who are listening as well. Good to speak with you. All right, we were, I guess, theme of the day is synchronicity. I have a particular look on synchronicity of having two aspects. One is synchronicity by chance, which sounds like an oxymoron. I know that. and the other is synchronicity by destiny. And there's two aspects. Synchronicity by chance is when you're walking down the street, you see a friend you haven't seen in 20 years. You exchange, oh, let's write, let's call, and get the addresses and the phone numbers. You walk away, and you never see each other again. Synchronicity by destiny is, and I will give this brief, I know you don't have a lot of time, so I'll be very brief. When I got out of the war, I was in California. I love California. I've lived there for a lot of years. I wanted to stay, but something kept drawing me back to this state. And I'm allowed to say New York? Yes. Okay, all right. And I didn't know why, but I almost was impelled to stay. So many years later, after coming back here and many adventures and et cetera, I was giving a class at a particular place up here. And this one gal, her name was Shadow Fox. I thought, what a weird name. But anyhow, she was my top student. And then there was this feeling, this recognition of this was a destiny. There was no doubt. There was no concern. This was something that was meant to be. And it's purely synchronicity that she showed up at my teaching.
And I had the same feeling and being drawn back to the same area, like almost kicking and screaming, like my heels dug in, like, no.
I've heard more of your story and about your kicking and screaming, so I could believe that.
Oh, only when she. Never mind. We won't get into that. One bad thing.
Don't make me edit more of the podcast than I have to, please.
Oh, that's okay. Let's join forces and let's blow it out of the water.
I told you I was worried.
But yes, there's many things. One of my favorite movies, I don't call the name of it, where a couple was together. They met accidentally or synchronistically, if we can use that term. There was that identity of each other, that this is somebody I'd really like to know better. They parted ways for whatever reason, jobs, etc. 20 years later. Was
this the book, whether he wrote in the back of a book?
No.
I wasn't Serendipity. Okay, right. That was another good film.
That was not Serendipity.
Yeah, there was a movie. It was a movie. I can't remember the name.
It could have been Serendipitous as well as Synchronous. But
well, he wrote his name in the back of a book.
20 years later, they accidentally met on the street, and then they formed a relationship after, recognizing each other instantly.
Oh, which decade was this film?
In New York City, of two people greeting each other on the street that haven't seen each other for. So anyhow, again, that's an example of synchronicity by destiny.
There's definitely been a lot of those ones within my existence. I was down on the coast, which would be 60 miles from my normal location, back in the early 90s. And walking along the beach, crowded beach, I heard someone shout out the word pool. Didn't pay attention because I was down there on my own with a few other friends. Lo and behold, on Monday morning, back in the office, one of the guys comes over to me and goes, lo and behold, because I didn't even tell him I was going down there at the weekend. But he said, I saw you at the weekend. I shouted your name and you didn't turn around. And it was like, well, didn't really expect to need to turn around and do those kind of things. And other people I know have tried to avoid people because they've turned up in dreams. But suddenly, years later, by trying to avoid them, another person's actually bumped into them by chance without actually knowing that they were going to be in the same location at the same time. So there are reasons for these kind of events.
Yeah, when people call my name and I either behind me or on the other side of the street, I run the other. Because some of my past is not exactly exemplary, so I don't know who they are.
It's a good thing I don't have a photo of you, because then I don't know which one to run away from.
Well, she's doing something with her hands. Go ahead, speak.
No, you tell
them. What?
It sounds like a puppet show. Oh. She's not manipulating from behind with a hand, is she? Telling you when to talk and not talk.
Well, there's an iron pan out. I don't know what it's doing there, but it's in her hand.
I thought she was trying to put you in the microwave at one stage while you were talking. I heard the bleeping going.
No, I got magnets in my head. I might destroy the microwave. So.
Oh, don't. Now you've made me think of you as a fridge magnet with little pieces of notes on you stuck to your head. It's not good.
What do you think I do during the night?
Well, the thing is I'd like to kind of wrap it up for him here a little bit. But when he was talking about that synchronicity of the both of us having that same feeling of being stuck within the same area, and we actually knew the same people. I mean, he like knew my father. And I didn't know he knew my father. So it was like we were constantly swirling around in those same community
And
aspects.
she's not my type, and I am not her type.
No, we
That
are
was
not.
very confusing.
Yes.
But didn't you also say that he knew your brother as well?
My father. Yeah.
Oh,
he knew
okay.
he knew my
I thought,
father.
okay,
But,
different story, right?
yeah, no, that was from the Dream Time with me. When I was a
That's
child.
where I got that confusion,
my brother,
right? Yeah.
my brother Steve the Ranger, and Lee Two Hawks, the unknown, my unknown soldier. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do have it right in my own head straight. That's good. Fine.
Yep. And so again, that was that synchronicity that technically brought us together. And he's hilarious when he talks about the very moment he saw me, because everything really did come together for him for the most part.
Well, there was that, and I'll just be very brief. I don't know how much time you got or I got or she's got. But anyhow, if you get her on, you'll be longer. You'll be here longer. Anyhow, one of the things is we were having a meeting in this one place. It was a sitting to advance our clairvoyance and clairaudience and that good stuff, the psychics. And there were about 8 people there. She came in the door with her mother, and all I saw was a flash of light. And immediately I thought, because I know what that means. So she came around, she introduced herself, and she shook my hand, and we looked at each other, and there's electricity there. And she kept going and kept glancing back at me. And then she got around the other side, the guy opposite me. She says, "Oh, I think I've known you in another lifetime." I am not a jealous person. I have never been jealous in my life. At that moment, I got jealous. So what is the response to that? I have no idea why it happened. But anyhow, here we are together.
I just love your story because the fact that you basically have told me before that you're almost the same kind of magnets with the same magnetic pole repulsing each other at the same time as well, which is always quite an amazing story of how much you're attracted to each other, but also drive each other crazy. Yeah.
Well, there is that opposite pole type of thing as well working. And yeah, she's always negative. Oh, hell, this. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's not true.
That's not true. I agree.
No, actually, and this is where the difference is of where we have likes attract like, because in the physical world, and here's the synchronicity, opposites attract. You have male, female, light, dark. Those are the opposites. In the metaphysical or the etheric realm, it's where like attracts like. That's why the higher your frequency is, the better or the best intentions you have. When you're manifesting something, that's when it becomes easy. And so this is where we were attracted to each other, was in the actual, the spirit form of ourselves, I guess.
One very, very quick thing is when I was giving that class, and that was in the 90s, and I was being called by the Navajo. They were having I knew nothing about it, but it came in dream time, and it was come, you must come. And what it was, a gathering from all over the world of people doing prayer and doing certain things to anchor particular energies on the reservation. So I told my class at the time, I have to, and everybody left except Shadowfly. And
I was the one that left.
Oh, that's right. You left. Yeah, you left.
Please get your story straight, because when the court is going to give their judgment, we would like to get it correct.
Or maybe I wish you would be gone.
His memory's been failing a little bit.
Well, if he keeps sticking magnets on his head, I think that's going to be causing a bit of a problem.
So anyhow, everything worked out, and that's fine. And but this very strange thing like that. And what happened is I had to break up the class because I was really planning on leaving and going out west. And for some reason, because of her, some sort of pull, some sort of magnetism kept me. And I later found out what that place out west was, and they did. It was magnificent. I wish you would have been there. But I got a better jewel. I got a better crystal.
I'm glad you kind of pulled it back at the last minute. It could have been better to sort of put in the front. She was the better one, but it was a nice event that I could have gone to.
I may have been giving him the evil eye. You never can
Oh,
tell.
okay. You influenced.
She don't have a lot of evil in her, so it's tough to do.
I'm glad.
Okay, I'm gonna stop now, and thank you for allowing me to speak. It's always a joy.
Oh no, I'm always learning things when Lee speaks. I like the relationship advice. I think that's the best thing that I kind of put into.
Us? Oh, wait, no.
Learn by example. That's what I say. Always works well.
In all practicality, he truly is. He does live his life by example, and I have really learned so much from him. He truly is a teacher of teachers, and I'm being perfectly upfront and honest. He is a very genuine individual.
I have to say that when you two get up and talk and come here, don't know whether I'm going to get a timer or have to separate you and put you in one corner of the internet to the other side of the internet and let one speak first. Not too sure yet. To help our research and understanding, leave Perceptions Today's podcast reviews, subscribe to the podcast, along with the other social media accounts, and share. Come and join our live events. That way we can get together and have thoughtful discussions along with advancing our understanding of concepts as we go along.